Hello and welcome to Heal Yourself Therapies. Today we're with Liz Sorbo, and Liz is going to tell us some wonderful things. I've been really excited about this interview, and we've planned it for a while, but finally we're together and we can meet Liz. Liz, hello, how are you?
Hello, I'm fine. Thank you, Gordon. And I want to say thank you so much for having me on your channel. I've really been looking forward to it.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I've been looking forward to it too. Liz, let's, nobody, the people who are watching you, some people might know you from our Telegram group, but, lots of people won't. So why don't you give us a little bit of background on you? What's happened for you to come to this place? Give us a background on your life.
Right, in a nutshell, basically, I'm from an Italian immigrant family, grew up in the UK, but I was born in Italy. Mm-hmm. At the age of about 10, I had Jehovah's Witnesses knocking on my door, and I was really interested in their message. But because I was 10 years old, my parents said, no way are you getting involved with them. Fast forward to when I was about 20, I got involved with the Jehovah's Witnesses, and this time actually studied with them, got baptized. That caused a big rift in our family. I ended up leaving home, and there was a big hullabaloo in terms of the whole Italian community up in arms, and they thought I was crazy and the rest of it. So I was drawn to the Jehovah's Witnesses message. Uh-huh. Lived in Italy for a while I was married, came back to the UK after that. And to cut long story short, I ended up leaving Jehovah's Witnesses. I subsequently found that it was an actual cult, and I found out lots of things I didn't know while I was in it. So pretty much like, I suppose, how you found out about the whole cult situation and the paedophilia that's infiltrated in it and everything. So anyway, then I went through a stage of being a non-denominational Christian. And then that kind of waned a little bit. And then I turned over and I became an agnostic atheist. I don't like labels. But I went through that stage of I don't believe in any God and everything. And then the whole COVID thing kicked off last year in March. Mm-hmm. And I was still at that stage of I don't believe in God and everything. But I don't know what it was in particular. I realised that actually what was being aired on television wasn't really the truth. And so I phoned up the TV licensing people and I said, I don't want to pay my TV license anymore. I'm not going to pay to be lied to. And I stopped watching television last March. And pretty soon, I don't know what it was. It's synchronicities, I think it was. It was like people came into my life and they direct me to there's a channeler called Magenta Pixie. Yeah. So watch Magenta Pixie. Someone else watch Laurie Ladd. And so basically I was pointed in different directions. And in the meantime, in my local community, I came across people that lived locally that were like-minded, and we would start talking about, what's going on. Do you believe it? Don't you believe it? Have you seen this video? Have you seen this? Sending links to each other and everything. And that just kind of confirmed to me that actually my first instinct of watching television, it didn't kind of sit well with me. And I knew that they were all lies and propaganda. Yeah. So basically it's taken me to, from last March to where we are now, that I'm involved in a big community growing community of people that are like-minded and actually doing something positive about things.
Brilliant.
In a nutshell.
Okay. All right. So you kind of, let's say your waking up process is a fairly recent one, waking up to kind of the cult of the society that we live in, I suppose.
I think as a child, I always thought that there was something wrong with the world. So my instinct as a child, I remember one time, because we grew up as Roman Catholic in our family being Italian. Yeah. I remember it was Christmas, and my mum pulling me up the aisle in the Catholic church and saying, kiss Bambino Gesù, baby Jesus, kiss baby Jesus, a little kind of little statue and everything. And I kind of looked at her and I said, I'm not kissing a statue. That's a statue. And she was so incensed about it and everything. And then I'd look at the world, and I'd look at like third world countries, and people were dying of starvation, and we were in a country where we had an abundance of everything. That just didn't sit well with me. And then they had that big concert, didn't they? Feed the world and everything, and things never changed. It's like, where does all this money go to? You know, so as I was growing up, from a young child, instinctively, I felt it wasn't right. And at one point in my life, I remember walking past the church and feeling drawn to going in. And there was this minister that came and sat with me and said, "Why are you here today?" And basically I said to him, "I don't feel like I belong. I don't feel like I belong in this world. I feel like I'm a stranger in a stranger's land, and I can't make sense of any of it." And that, to me, looking back on it, makes me think what I know now about who we really are, makes me think, oh my goodness, I don't belong, and I am from another place, and I'm here for a reason. All the pieces are fitting together.
Sure. Well, let me ask you a question then, because you went through the stage of being an agnostic, atheist, and I know you don't like labels. Where is your belief sitting now? What do you believe?
Right, without putting a label on it, and I don't like the new age thing either, because I know the new age, it can be all infiltrated, everything can be infiltrated and everything like that. So I'm not going to say I'm a new age or anything like that, but I've come to learn that actually we are beings from a different dimension, a different time, wherever you might like to say, from the heavens, with infinite possibilities and infinite powers. And that we, each of us, chose to come at this particular moment in time. We have a task, we have a mission, because this time was prophesied, and we know that these are the times that the people who are in need of help and having their eyes opened, we are stationed here strategically to help these people when their eyes are opened and when disclosure comes. So I am a light being, and I know that my mission is that, to help facilitate this great awakening. So if there's a name to it, I don't know if there is a name to it, but that's my belief now.
Okay. And I don't think there needs to be a name to it.
No.
You've described it perfectly, because it's more like a feeling, isn't it, than putting a label on it.
Yeah. It's intuition, isn't it? It's a feeling.
Yeah. And you've talked about the intuition that you had even as a youngster of something isn't right here, and I can empathize with that. You know, all of my life I had this feeling of something isn't quite right with all of this. You know, okay, so talk to us a little bit, Liz, about this community that's starting to develop, that you're involved with. What's happening there?
Right. Okay. So this was another synchronicity. It was a Telegram group that I belonged to, a local Telegram group. And someone popped up in there and said, "Oh, there's meetings every Tuesday at such and such a location. It's to do with common law. Is anyone interested to come along and take part?" So I'd already registered on the Common Law Court, the John Smith Common Law Court website. So I was in the process of recording my birth certificate and taking up my fictitious name, ownership of my fictitious name. So I knew a little bit about common law, and I thought maybe this is a good opportunity to go and find out more. So anyway, I went with a couple of friends, and it straight away, there's farmland around, and it's in an open space in the middle of nowhere. It's fantastic. And there was loads of people in this place. And straight away, I connected with all the people, and I felt at home, and I felt this is the taste of things to come. And then as we got involved in the whole meeting, it transpired that they had projects in the pipeline, and one of which was, because of the farmland, growing our own fruit and vegetable. There's other projects going on, self-defense, education, arts and crafts, food, health. So from my very first meeting, I knew that this was something special, and I felt like I'd come home. And then subsequently, after that first meeting, that initial meeting, I've been going every Tuesday, and these projects are taking shape and form. So now we've got in the pipeline, the garden is, we have volunteers going to do the gardening. You've got volunteers doing self-defense and everything. And what's happening, we also have a community exchange program. So you trade services for either another service that you can swap, or they are using a cryptocurrency, I think it's called lumens as well. So you decide between the two of you what the service is going to be, how you're going to pay for it. And so it's a taste of things to come. It's a new community beginning to arise, and these are all over the place as well in the UK.
Wow, that's fantastic. And in your community, how many people are involved?
Altogether, about 72.
Wow,
we've got 49 that come on a regular basis, and then you've got others that contribute every now and then, but they come from a bit further afield, so they can't be involved on a permanent basis.
Yeah.
And then you've got some people that register online because they're just interested in the common law side of things, and they don't particularly want to come to the meetings. So in all, at last count, it was 72. Yeah.
That's brilliant. Question for you: when you with those people, does everybody have the same opinion about what's happening with the COVID pandemic, or do you have mixed opinions?
I think generally speaking, we all are on the same page, but with different versions of it. So some people say, oh, the virus hasn't been isolated, so you can't identify it. Other people say, I think there is an actual virus, etc., etc. But the consensus amongst us is basically we are heading towards a new golden era, a new 5D reality, and that we're all working together to create it. And we're going to leave behind the old system of things, so to speak, not quite the JWs. We're leaving that behind, and we're creating new. And so there are maybe little differences in terms of how you might view the situation, but the outcome and what we want to achieve is the same.
Brilliant. Excellent. It reminds me, there's a guy in South Africa called Michael Tellinger. I don't know if you've seen his work. Yeah. And he talks about one small town, and he's been working on that for about 20 years or something. And it's just what you were talking about, where everybody brings something to the group, and all of the skills and the abilities and the effort and the energy just creates this incredible community. So I think that's really exciting, and everything starts. I believe everything starts with an idea, and in a small way, but especially when it's a good idea. And I think at the moment, what everybody's missing is fellowship.
Yeah.
I think what they've done with this pandemic is to take away the fellowship, so that we're all isolated, and we only talk to people on Zoom.
Yeah.
So I think when I was away the weekend on a retreat, the shaman said, when a crisis happens, and this has been a crisis, whether you class it as an induced crisis or not, when people come through, it's almost like death and rebirth, and people want to celebrate life again. And it seems like the idea of the community that you're starting to build is that celebration of life, and let's move on to new pastures. So I think I really do believe that this is going to be the way forward. And some of the messages that I've been given through my channeling is all about the community is going to be groups coming together, and the community is going to be the actual way forward. That's how we're going to take it forward. I don't know what you think about that.
I absolutely believe that. Yeah, absolutely. We do thrive on contact. We need human contact. And it's funny how we say we thrive on human contact and being together, because there's an advertising campaign, NHS advertising campaign in the UK, where it says the virus thrives on human contact. So it's an inversion, really, isn't it? It's, again, we thrive with being together as a community, hugging, kissing, being in close proximity to one another, socializing, and yet they're saying the virus thrives on human contact. So it's keeping people apart.
Absolutely.
So, absolutely. But it is actually what you're saying. We need to build these new communities.
Yeah.
And talking about the new communities, we have this newspaper in the UK called The Light.
Uh-huh.
And at the back, it talks about freedom hubs. So this is December's one that I've got here, and it says, we will come together, work together, and unite together. 65 freedom hubs have now joined the Freedom Network, a non-political movement taking positive, peaceful action across the UK simultaneously to bring back freedom and return the country to us. And then there's a map. I don't know if you can see that. There's a map there, and it kind of shows you all the different locations where the freedom hubs are.
Okay.
So that basically shows that it's a growing thing in terms of communities getting together and basically saying, we don't need the outside world. We're going to grow our own communities, and we're going to take onus of our own future and take control of our own future. And that's fantastic. And we're leaving these newspapers, all sorts of outlets, supermarkets and petrol stations, and putting them in people's doors and just giving them out.
How can people get a hold of that newspaper? How can you get them?
Well, we've got a place that delivers them for us, but there is a website address here where on the inside. I mean, I can give you the information about that afterwards. If you
give me the website address, I'll put it in the information on the video so that people can get involved, because I think that would be, I think what I'm aware of, Liz, is that what they've done, they have co-opted every kind of media that we relied on to spread the word. But somebody was saying the other day, and it's an idea that I'm working on for here, people have developed stickers, like just little stickers, like saying, this is a pandemic, and asking those questions that help people to think. And they're spreading them out. Everyone's printing them out and going wherever they go, on shopping trolleys, putting a sticker on. If you imagine, that is really powerful communication, because if you pass out to 30 people, and then they pass out to 30 people, and they pass out to 30 people, suddenly you've overpowered this online bullshit that we've got now, which is everything censored. And so I think, and I've seen this in the US as well, where they've grouped together and they're starting to put big banners across the motorway bridges and things like that. So they're saying, hundreds of thousands of people are seeing these. And I think it's like a newspaper and stuff like that. I think the way forward is not for us to wait for them to stop censoring. It's to actually find other ways of doing it.
Well, we're fighting fire with fire, aren't we? So if they can do the advertising game, we can do the advertising game as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think we're going to have to. I think we have to rethink everything. We have to sort of, as we say, box clever. We're going to have to rethink how we want to help humankind, because clearly at the moment they have control of the internet, but the internet's not that old, is it? Before we used to have word of mouth, and that was pretty good. Yeah,
absolutely.
So right, what do you see, Liz? What's your feel for the future? What do you think is going to happen?
I only want to focus on the positive, because if you focus on the positive, you bring to you the positive. So whilst I can understand what's kind of on the 3D level and what's been presented to us is like all doom and gloom and horror show, I think the future is going to be a fantastic future. We are creators and we're creating that future. And in so doing, we're dismantling the old. So when I look at the future, I only see positivity. I only see communities getting louder and more connected, and more people waking up, because there's going to be a tipping point. There's going to be a tipping point where people are going to get to a point where they're going to say, this can't be. Businesses that now are shut. I mean, there's lots of places in Europe, around the world, that now they're pushing back with opening their businesses, etc. Italy being one of them, because I have relatives back home in Italy and friends telling me what's going on there. And I think, depending on the country, people react in different ways. So the English or the Brits are very kind of still very, they're afraid to push back. It's not the done thing. It's not polite. You just kind of toe the line and you do as you're told and everything. Whereas I find that other nationalities maybe might be a bit more kind of, no. I was speaking to a lady, she runs a cafe locally, she's Polish, and she said with the history of Poland and what they suffered under different dictatorships and things, the people in Poland are pushing back big time because they've suffered in the past and they know what a dictatorship looks like. And I think if you're a country that has had that kind of history, you're more likely to kind of be aware of what's actually happening and then take steps to push back. Whereas if you're a country where you're very compliant, very polite, very kind of, you just do as you're told and you're a good girl and you're a good boy and you just get on with things.
Sure.
So I think we're going to be catching up. But having said that, with the freedom hubs and things, there are things happening. But on the outside, looking at the majority of people, they still are on that path of the BBC tells us we need to do this, so we'll do it.
Absolutely, yeah. And I see the same thing here in Spain. I think Spanish people had a reputation of being extremely rebellious, but I think what's overarching is the years of Franco and the dictatorship and the fear that people had of the civil guard and things like that. People are frightened. And everyone's has to wear masks. You have to wear a mask here in Spain if you go outside. Supposedly, you don't actually because it's not law. But people are wearing them not because they're frightened of the virus. Absolutely not. They're frightened of getting into trouble and getting a fine, and that's what's holding them. Yes, there are some people who wear masks on their own when they're driving a car.
Yeah.
And I want to stop the car and slap them about the face. Yeah. For God's sake. But what you're gonna give it to yourself? What are you gonna do in the car?
Yeah.
But that's a minority. The majority of people are wearing them because they don't want a fine and they're worried that they'll be in trouble. And the other half are wearing them because they're worried about what other people might think of them. Peer pressure is massive.
Yeah, I think there's a mixture of that here in the UK as well, because in the supermarkets, for example, we have exemptions, so we're allowed exemptions. So if you have an exemption card, you're not obliged to actually show it. And according to the Equalities Act 2010, you don't have to disclose what your disability is anyway. And they're not allowed to actually ask you, because if they do ask you, they can be fined. That's basically. Right. Yeah. So I know people, when they go out and they go to the supermarket, lots of them wear them underneath their noses. And it is what you've just said. It's not because they're really convinced that there is a virus, but it's just like a compliance kind of thing. For them to get what they need, they know they have to act in a certain way. So they're afraid, and they're afraid of each other in terms of being judged. It's, what will my neighbour think? Sure. Well, quite basically, I don't care what my neighbour thinks, but they do, because appearances is everything. And it's a virtue signalling thing as well, isn't it? It's like, well, look what I'm doing. I'm sacrificing my health, or I'm sacrificing, wearing a mask for a little bit. It's a small price to pay, and I'm protecting you and I'm protecting myself as well. And, you're selfish if you don't wear one. I had an incident where I went to a card shop. We're all on lockdown now. So at the moment, it's just the supermarkets that are open and essential businesses, so-called. And I went to a card shop a few months ago before we went on total lockdown. And I went in without a mask as usual. And there's this lady behind me and she's like, where's your mask? Where's your mask? And I'm like, I don't need to wear a mask. I'm exempt. I work for the NHS. You need a doctor's letter. And I'm like, no, you don't need a doctor's letter. And she said, yes, you do. You have to show us why you're exempt. I said, I'm not obliged to show you. But it's like, because she was working in the NHS, she felt that she needed to put me straight because the NHS says this, this, and this. And in fact, it doesn't. So it's like, the people that are in the trap, NHS being one of them, they actually, to a certain degree, believe that propaganda that's being targeted to them because they're in the web, they're deep in that structure.
Yeah.
And I thought, of all people that should know, do you not see the empty hospitals? Do you not see, what's happening around you? Does it strike you as a bit, strange that we're in the middle of a pandemic and yet we've hardly got anyone in the beds? And then there's another thing like, well, and this is what I thought recently of doing, of a freedom of information request with regards to funeral homes. Have there been increases in deaths? And if so, can you give me the proof of that? And another thing that people don't reason, it's like, where are all the mass graves? If this was really a pandemic, surely our grave sites, our graveyards and everything, they'd be overrun. I see no evidence of that.
Sure.
And no one else does.
Yeah, I watched a really interesting video guy who said 25 questions about the pandemic. And they're all questions like that, if it is, well, why are we not seeing this, and this, and this? And really, we're in two worlds. And you were talking about the 3D, 5D. The people who are in 5D, the scales have fallen away from their eyes to see. And so it is patently obvious. And I know I've used this analogy before of the little boy with the emperor's new clothes. Yeah. There's only one little boy there shouting, but he's naked. And everybody else is saying, oh, isn't it wonderful? The truth of the matter was he was naked. And the truth of the matter is that there is no issue. But, when people are under a mass hypnosis, which is what we've got going on, mass hypnosis, and they've done a hats off. They've done a fantastic job. I've got to say, they've done a really good job. I practice hypnosis. And if I were as good a hypnotherapist as they are, I'd be very happy. They've done a great job of keeping people blind or seeing something that isn't there. And that's why you were talking about the Great Awakening. And we are part of it. But I believe now that our role is not so much waking people up. It's leading the way. It's shining the light on the path, because it's too big of a job for us to wake people up. That's for the higher plan that you talked about, this one that was prophesied, this Great Awakening that's been prophesied for a long time. That's going to happen automatically, because all around the world now, it's like the light's being turned on and people are starting to see horror after horror after horror after lie, after corruption, after whatever. And so that's what's going to wake them up while we crack on with, like, for example, with you, with your community, getting everything in the structure in place so that when they finally come and say, help, what do? We go, well, this way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's for family and friends as well. It's for family and friends, especially for close ones that be misled.
They're going to need a lot of help. They're going to need a lot of support. And I know that, let me tell you what I think, and you can tell me whether you agree. Lots and lots of people who've woken up extremely angry with the people who are asleep. They're extremely angry, and they want and I told you so day. They want I said this for ages, and look, and I was right. And I understand exactly why they feel that way, because it's almost like they're being betrayed. These people are just saying, no, it's not true, and they're blinded. But as you said, lots of those are our friends, really good friends and very close family. And come the time when they do wake up, they're going to need us. They really are going to need us, and we're going to have to help them. As we're helping them, we can slip in, I told you so, as we do it. But regardless, we've still got to help them. We're going to have to help them. And so that's why I think it's important our focus is on where to lead them to, what to show them, how to help them, So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I've never had that anger kind of thing. I mean, at the beginning, I was like very kind of, the sheeple and all that kind of, calling them names and everything. But now I've come to understand that it has to be a compassionate thing. You have to kind of look at them with compassion, because that could so easily be us. It could so easily have been us, and we could have been asleep and not know. So I think it's a matter of patience. I've got family members, and in particular my son, that, you present them with an argument, and just when you think that they've got it, it's like Mark Atwood says, twangers.
The twangers, the twangers.
Yeah. And you just think they get it, and it's like, yeah, okay. And then they get reset back to, you know, their default setting, and think, well, what is it that I said that they didn't get? You know, do your own research. Well, if you don't trust what I'm saying, go along, and because things seem too fantastical, don't they? They seem too out there, so that when you speak to friends and relatives, it's like, that can't possibly be, you know. I was just recently, earlier on this morning, I was having a conversation with my son about adrenochrome.
Mm-hmm.
And for him, it's like, no, it's just too far-fetched. It can't possibly be right, you know.
Sure.
And the underground bunkers and everything. But the things, I think, what they kind of feel is like, I've also said to him in the past, you know, going by what I've been watching and what I've been saying, and now I'm not going to do this as a mistake anymore now. Like, you know, when they say, for example, President Trump's going to be re-elected and this is going to happen and this is going to happen, everything. So before the whole election, I was saying to my son, don't worry, Biden's not going to get in, and Trump is doing this, he's for the light, he's a good guy and everything, and all these predictions and everything. And then when they don't happen, my son said to me in the car the other day, he goes, what do you think about it all now, Mum? You know, it didn't come to pass, as you said, and Biden's in the White House now, and you said that Trump was going to win the day for everyone, and it kind of puts you back and you think. So now I've decided I'm not going to put any stock in dates, and in fact, no, I never kind of hang my hat on any particular dates.
Yeah,
but I did kind of follow that reasoning and that way of, you know, because I think the power lies in us. And as much as we want to know the answers and we want to be kind of signposted, this is going to happen next and that's going to happen next and everything. No, when something's going to happen, it's not going to be kind of a big trumpet kind of announcement that, you know, we're going to have an emergency broadcast now. No, that's not how it works. You have an emergency broadcast out of the blue, don't you? It doesn't, you don't have intel telling all and sundry that it's going to happen now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think, taken with a pinch of salt, these various ones that, you know, will come forward and say, well, I've got, you know, on good authority, this is going to happen, or that's going to happen, and that's going to happen, and everything. I think, no, take it with a grain of salt. Rely on your knowing what's going on inside and your higher self, and know that things are happening just as they're supposed to be happening, and not to be too anxious about when this happens or when that happens, or look, you know, we can't kind of carry on waiting because so many horrible things are happening. The collateral damage is fantastically huge across the world. Now something needs to happen. It's going the way it's supposed to happen.
Sure.
That's what I believe.
Yeah, I agree with you entirely. And I think what I'm coming to understand is that we don't need to rely on men, you know, and it's kind of, it has been pretty much the theme of just be calm, just trust the plan, just wait, just wait. And that puts you in that very strange, like, in-betweeny world of, well, I'll not do anything while I'm waiting to be saved. Yeah. And I think, no, I think the greatest thing that happened was for people to say, oh, well, we haven't been saved. Now what do we do? Because those people are awake, they're all awake, you know, and I'm very grateful for the work that, not to mention the letter, you know, the number 17, that movement, it woke up millions upon millions upon millions of people. And yes, they were waiting to be saved, you know, like as if Jesus Christ was going to come and save them. But now what they're going to do, you know, now that's not happening, even though they're still continuing the narrative on, well, it'll be next week. No, it's the week after. Yeah. No, it's the week after, you know. But now we can start to think, well, what can we do? If they're going to save us, fantastic. But we can still be doing stuff in the meantime.
Yeah.
We can still be doing a lot of stuff. Just as, you know, you've mentioned with the community stuff. So I think, you know, if it happens, great. If it doesn't happen, great, something else will.
Yeah. And in the meantime, you roll up your sleeves and you do something about it, because we have to be self-reliant. We have to rely on ourselves and each other in terms of building communities, communities for the future. And if you're just kind of hanging on the word of every celebrity, YouTuber, whoever it might be, as well-intentioned as it may be, you've misunderstood what it means to be a sovereign man and woman and to have the power that's within. You've missed the whole point of it.
Yeah. And I think I mentioned in a video that I did earlier that these people who have a voice really have a responsibility to start telling people to get on, crack on, and do their own thing, and not keep giving them, it'll be all right in a couple of weeks, just hang on. No, I think they could say, hey, it might be all right in a couple of weeks, but in the meantime, why don't we start organizing ourselves? And to me, that would be of so much more value than just rattling through the same stuff. But that's their business, and that's why we're chatting today. But as you were talking, there was I was 21 years I spent studying the Bible, and when things happen, I can't help but hear little bits and pieces that come. But there was a very famous part of the Bible that says, "No one knows the day nor the hour." And if we use it as a tenet, then we don't have to worry about it. We don't have to be looking for the signs. We've seen the signs. For God's sake, the signs are there. Yeah. We know it's coming. Now let's get on and do something about it. So I think, Liz, it's been absolutely fantastic talking to you, and I'm sure you've given all of the people who are listening hope and understanding that we can actually start to do something. And we'll put the information of the Light, the newspaper, and the stuff that they're working on. We'll put it in there, and let's see if we can start building some more communities. It'd be lovely. And let's see if we can get something going here in Spain as well. That'd be fantastic.
It's the way forward. It's definitely the way forward.
Absolutely.
I've really enjoyed it, Gordon. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing, Liz. Thank you. And I'm sure we'll talk again. Every time that you think that there's something that's really worth talking about, why don't we get together and you can update us on your communities?
Certainly. Yeah, there's other things in the pipeline as well in terms of an event that's coming up in July. Once I know all the details of that, I'll be able to kind of speak to you about that as well. So
okay, brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Liz. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too, Gordon. Thanks a lot. Take care.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.